The millionaire pretended to leave on a business trip, but what he discovered inside his own home forced him to confront a truth many parents avoid. We often believe discipline creates strong children, that structure and control equal safety. But what if love looks messy? What if growth requires risk and trust? When this father secretly returned, he expected to catch negligence. What he found instead challenged everything he thought he knew about parenting, grief, and power. This is not just a story about a nanny, it's a lesson about how children learn courage and how adults sometimes confuse fear with respect. Watch closely, because the moment that changed everything started on the floor.
There was no creak in the lock. Don Roberto had personally oiled the bolts the night before, setting the stage for his perfect trap. The house was immersed in that deceptive stillness that precedes storms, or at least that's what he believed. His gloved hand, wrapped in black leather, slowly turned the front doorknob with exasperating slowness. He carried his briefcase in the other hand, not because he had work, but because it was part of the disguise. He was supposed to be 30,000 feet in the air, flying to a conference in Geneva. He was supposed to be absent. The house was supposed to be free of his presence, leaving the way clear for the new nanny to show her true colors. Roberto hated uncertainty. Since his wife's death, his life had become a grid of schedules, rules, and forced silence. He had fired 4 nannies in 6 months, one for arriving 5 minutes late, another for using her phone while feeding the twins, another simply because her laughter sounded too shrill for a house in mourning. But this one, Elena was an enigma, too young, too inexperienced, and according to Dunya Gertrudis, his trusted housekeeper, far too vulgar for the family standards. "I'm telling you, sir, when you're not home, that girl does strange things," Gertrudis had whispered that morning, wearing a mask of fake concern that Roberto mistook for loyalty. "The children don't cry, sir, and that's not normal. Children always cry. If they don't, it's because she has them drugged or terrified." Those words burned in his chest as he pushed the door open. A widowed father's fear is dangerous fuel. It turns into anger before proof ever appears. Roberto entered, carefully set the briefcase on the floor, and strained to listen. He expected crying. He expected to find Elena asleep on the couch. He expected the television blasting at full volume. But what he heard froze him in the entryway. It wasn't crying. It wasn't the TV. It was laughter. Guttural, explosive, rhythmic laughter. Not timid giggles, deep belly laughter, the kind that makes your stomach ache. Laughter he hadn't heard in that house for over a year. It was his children, Nico and Santi. Roberto felt his stomach twist. Curiosity and panic collided. He moved down the hallway, his Italian leather soles barely brushing the polished wood, guided by the sound of joy that felt like a personal offense in his solemn home. When he reached the living room doorway, the scene before him was so absurd, so surreal, so violently opposed to every rule of decorum he believed in that his brain took several seconds to process it. The living room, normally a temple of minimalist order and neutral tones, looked like the stage of an avant-garde play. And at the center of it all was Elena. She wasn't sitting and reading a story. She wasn't preparing bottles. The dark-haired young woman was lying flat on her back on the beige rug, arms and legs fully stretched out. But what made Roberto's mouth fall open in disbelief was her outfit and posture. She wore the bright blue nurse-style uniform Gertrudis had forced her to wear, claiming it gave the house class. But on her hands were bright yellow rubber gloves, the kind used to scrub toilets or wash greasy dishes. "Up you go, my brave ones!" Elena shouted from the floor, her smile so wide that it seemed to distort her face with pure happiness. Roberto blinked. His sons, his heirs, the twin boys Nico and Santi, barely a year old, were standing on top of her, literally on top of her. It was a human tower of instability and joy. Nico stood on Elena's chest, his colorful sneakers planted over the embroidered logo of her uniform, while Santi balanced on her stomach. The boys wore light denim overalls and white shirts, looking like tiny acrobats drunk on adrenaline. "Careful with the north wind," Elena cried, gently shifting her body as if simulating a mild earthquake. Santi, the smaller one, the fragile one, the one doctors had said had motor issues, the one who barely crawled when Roberto was present, was standing upright. His legs trembled with effort, but his mouth was wide open in laughter, showing his few white gums. He steadied himself by placing his chubby hands on Elena's shoulders, using her as a balance bar, while Nico raised his arms like he'd just conquered Everest. Sunlight poured in through the windows, illuminating the dust particles stirred up by movement. It was chaos, perfect chaos. Elena held their ankles with her yellow-gloved hands, her legs tense, acting as the solid base of that human house of cards. To anyone else, it would have been a snapshot of pure love and instinctive connection, but to Roberto, filtered through grief and obsession with control, it was an abomination. He saw germs on the gloves. He saw danger in the height. He saw disrespect in the floor. He saw a domestic employee turning his children into circus attractions. Blood rushed to his head. The businessman vanished. The strategist disappeared. What remained was a terrified father and an offended master. "What the hell?" he whispered. At that moment, Elena made airplane noises with her mouth, and the twins erupted in fresh laughter, unaware of the dark, rigid figure watching from the doorway, briefcase forgotten, eyes blazing with fury. Roberto felt their happiness as an insult to his grief. How dared she make them laugh like that when he, their own father, couldn't get a single smile from them? The spell shattered when Roberto spoke. He didn't shout. It was thunder, dry, authoritative, venomous. "Elena." The effect was immediate and catastrophic. The physical harmony holding them together depended entirely on calm and focus. At the sound of his voice, Elena flinched, her body tensed against the floor. The twins, hypersensitive to tension, stopped laughing instantly. Their faces shifted from euphoria to terror in a heartbeat. Santi turned his head toward the door, lost his balance, and tipped dangerously toward the hardwood floor. "Careful!" Roberto shouted, stepping forward, but he was too far away. Elena wasn't. Her reflexes were those of a lioness. Before Roberto could finish his cry, Elena released the ankles. Her hands shot out like springs. With her right hand, she caught Santi mid-air, cradling his head against her chest before it could hit the floor. With her left arm, she wrapped around Nico's waist, pulling him into a protective embrace. In one fluid motion, she rolled and ended sitting on the floor with both children pressed to her chest, breathing hard. The twins, now safe but flooded with fear, began crying in unison, sharp, panicked cries that pierced Roberto's ears. Roberto crossed the room in long strides. "Let go of my children," he ordered, yanking Nico from Elena's arms. Elena stayed on the floor, hands empty and shaking, looking up. She pushed hair from her face with the back of her yellow glove. Her large, dark eyes were filled with fear and confusion. "Mr. Roberto, you were supposed to—" "I was supposed to be on a trip," he cut her off, his voice echoing. "Thank God I came back. What kind of madness is this?" Nico writhed in his arms, reaching for Elena and crying, "Nana! Nana!" The rejection hit Roberto like a slap. He dropped Nico onto the couch awkwardly and turned back to Elena, who was trying to stand. "Don't get up," he snapped. "Stay where you belong, on the floor. Do you have any idea what could have happened? 1 centimeter more and my son would have cracked his head open." "I had it under control, sir," Elena said, voice breaking but dignified. "I would never let them fall. We were doing exercises."
Exercises? Roberto laughed bitterly. I saw you, lying there like an animal, wearing filthy toilet cleaning gloves, letting my children walk all over you like an old piece of furniture. The gloves are new, sir, she said quickly. I only use them for the color. They like yellow. It helps them focus. I don't care about your daycare excuses, he snapped. I pay you a salary you'd never earn anywhere else. I pay you to care for them, to educate them, to teach manners and safety, not to run a circus in my living room. He looked around as if searching for witnesses. Look at you. It's pathetic. A woman your age rolling around on the floor. What would people think if they walked in? What would my wife think? That was a low blow. Elena lowered her gaze, biting her lip to keep from crying. She needed the job. Her sick mother depended on it. But Santi, still crying, crawled towards Elena and clutched her leg. Sir, Elena said, her tone changing, no longer apologetic, but maternal and pleading. They were laughing. They haven't laughed like that in months. Hysteria is not happiness, Roberto barked. Disorder is not joy. You put my children at risk for a stupid game. You are irresponsible. He pulled Santi off her leg. The baby clung desperately to Elena's uniform, burying his face in her knee. Roberto had to force his own child's fingers loose. Come here, he growled, lifting Santi. The baby kicked and punched at his chest, rejecting the expensive suit and reaching for the woman in rubber gloves. That was the breaking point. Roberto felt a sharp stab of jealousy. Get out of my sight, he hissed. Go to your room, pack your things, and wait for my decision. And take off those ridiculous gloves. We are serious people here, not clowns.
She removed the gloves calmly, revealing red, work-worn hands. She looked at the children one last time. Nico stared at her with huge, wet eyes. Santi screamed in his father's arms. I only wanted them to stop being afraid of falling, she whispered. The only thing they lost today is respect, Roberto replied, turning his back. Get out. Elena walked toward the service door, each step a defeat. Behind her, the twins' crying filled the house. Not joyful noise, but a raw, aching plea. Roberto stood alone in his perfect living room with two children he didn't want and a victory that tasted like ash. Down the hallway, Doña Gertrudis watched from the shadows, a twisted smile forming on her aged face. The plan had worked perfectly. Or so it seemed. The plan had worked perfectly. Or so it seemed. The twins didn't stop crying. Their screams didn't fade. They broke. Roberto sat frozen on the leather sofa, holding Santi as the baby twisted and screamed toward the hallway where Elena had disappeared. Nico kicked the cushions, red-faced and desperate, rejecting every attempt at comfort. Enough! Roberto shouted. Nothing changed. For the first time in his life, the man who controlled companies and fortunes felt powerless. He had everything, except his children. And then a shadow moved. Doña Gertrudis entered the room, calm and precise, carrying a glass of water like a nurse in a silent hospital. Sir, she said softly, this is what happens when boundaries disappear. Roberto rubbed his face. What did she do to them? Gertrudis lowered her voice. She confused them, spoiled them, put them above their place. Her eyes flicked toward the hallway. She wanted to replace your wife. The words landed hard. Roberto's jaw tightened. This ends today, he said coldly. Gertrudis bowed her head and smiled. That night, sleep refused to come. Roberto sat in his office, staring at the security monitors. Empty rooms, quiet halls. Then he froze. On the screen, Doña Gertrudis slipped into his bedroom. She opened the safe,
removed the diamond butterfly brooch, the one that had supposedly been stolen. Roberto's breath stopped. She didn't take it. She walked calmly down the hall and placed it inside Elena's bag. The truth hit like a punch. He had trusted cruelty. He had fired kindness. Downstairs, a violent cough echoed through the house. Santi. Roberto ran. In the nursery, Santi struggled to breathe, his tiny chest heaving. Nico stood in his crib, screaming, reaching for the door. "I don't know what to do," Roberto whispered, and for the first time, he asked for help. Elena returned at dawn. She took Santi in her arms, and the child calmed instantly. His breathing slowed. Nico stopped crying. Roberto stood in the doorway, broken. "I was wrong," he said, "about everything." He showed her the footage. Elena watched. She didn't smile. She didn't accuse. She only said, "They don't need a perfect house. They need someone willing to get down on the floor with them." That morning, Doña Gertrudis was escorted out, silent, defeated. Months passed. The mansion changed. Not cleaner, alive. Santi walked, then ran. Nico slept without fear. And sometimes, late in the afternoon, Don Roberto could be found on the living room floor, still in his suit, letting his children climb all over him. Because he finally understood, love isn't control. Love is presence. If this story moved you, remember, the people who kneel for you today are the ones who help you stand tomorrow. Please kindly subscribe to this channel so that you be notified once we drop a new video.